Welcome back, Giants fans. We are back. Me and Chris, the Entertainah. It's been a long time. I was just telling him. I don't think we recorded since like December. So what's
Been
going
a
on,
while,
man?
yeah.
Yeah, glad to have you back.
But this year we're definitely gonna make it a point to do it every week. Looking forward to working with Mike. Mike's a great guy. Well informed. Definitely gives a different perspective on the Giants, which I appreciate. So yeah, I'm excited to be on. Mike, talk about the new regime with the Giants and everything else, man.
Yeah, me and you were just saying before this, like we are pretty like not confused, but we just think there's a bunch of different places the Giants can finish this year. We see a very potential ceiling of like 10 wins, but the floor is also very low. We'll get into that. But first, let's start off with the breaking news of today, first day of September, right? September 1st. Blake Martinez out of nowhere was released by the Giants. I mean, what's just your initial reaction to that?
I was having a good day. We got Wyatt Davis. I'm like, that's a savvy pickup. Former third round pick. I remember a lot of people thought he'd go early second round. I like some of the other moves we made yesterday, specifically the safety from the Jets. And I'm like, all right, they're making a couple of savvy roster moves to fill out the rest of this roster. And then right before I'm getting ready to do this pod with you, Blake Martinez gets cut. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? And my first initial reaction was this has to be salary cap implications due to the fact I think I saw like a couple of days ago that they still need to shed like $4.5 million when you factor in the practice squad and everything else. So I went on Spot Track. Spot Track tells me they saved $3.5 million. So I'm like, okay, all right, at least there's a reason. Then I go back on Twitter. Duggan says that's not the case. Duggan says they're basically only saving like 350,000. So this is like Logan Ryan written all over it in the sense that there's no real explanation from a salary cap standpoint of why they made this move. I see a lot of people bring up the theory on Twitter that he didn't fit the scheme, but then I could say to myself, all right, well, if you didn't fit the scheme, you should have known that before you restructured the contract. You would have saved an extra $2 million. So I think there's more to the story. It's why I'm not going to absolutely go bonkers and flip out. I feel like there's more to the story than what we know. Maybe Blake was pissed off. He didn't like his role, and maybe he didn't like that he didn't get the cap. Who knows? The captain's badge. I don't know. But I think there's got to be more to this story than what we are thinking right now. I think there's maybe some dysfunction behind the scenes between Blake and Shane. And at the end of the day, this isn't Shane's guy. It's not. And I think I was as fair as I could be with Gettleman. I'm going to be as fair as I can be with Shane. Shane inherited a mess. And as much as I do think this hurts the roster this year, at least to some degree, I don't know how much because we don't know how good Blake was going to be coming off the injury and how well he fit the scheme. So I don't even know if this is like a huge hit, but it's certainly a hit. He was a veteran, so on and so forth. So we're going to get a look at the young guys, both at the cornerback spot and now the linebacker spot. So expect growing pains with this defense.
Yeah, that's why it didn't make sense to me. Like you look at the linebacker depth and you're like, okay, Tate Crowder, Micah McFadden, and you have what was the kid against the Jets who had a good game? It was Calitro, right? Like
Calitro, yeah. And Beavers, I should have mentioned, is out for the year now.
That's another thing. I'm like, wait, I could see if he was healthy because he actually looked really good the first game, and I was excited about him, and that unfortunately happened. But just looking at the depth for the linebacker spot, it's like, why would they release Blake Martinez? And they're not even saving that much money. Like I get it from the perspective of if they were going to save a lot of money, but as you said, they're not really doing that. I mean, now, listen, I'm not like going crazy over this. I could see a scenario where Blake Martinez coming off the ACL, approaching 30 years old, is not going to be the same guy he once was. I totally get that. And as you said, it was a Gettleman signing, one of his few good signings. Thank you, Dave. And, just looking at like this roster now.
Two good signings we got rid of. We got rid of Bradbury. We got rid of Martinez.
Bradbury. I mean, his 2020 class is looking all right. I'll give Dave some credit. Xavier McKinney and Andrew Thomas. So we're still going. We still have some hopes for Tony, hopefully. So we'll see. But I just don't get it with the depth on this team. I mean, and the whole scheme fit thing. I mean, Don Martindale is known as like a very aggressive defensive coordinator. And like when I remember Patrick Graham came over here, people were saying, oh, Blake Martinez had his career high in sacks with Patrick Graham. So I figured he would be a good fit for this defense. I don't know. Maybe, Blake Martinez is washed. I have no idea. We just saw Logan Ryan got cut by the Buccaneers. Maybe it's a situation like that. But I would say it is.
They brought him back though, right? Didn't the Bucs bring him back?
They might have. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't see.
But it was for like probably a much lesser salary. I don't know. Something. Yeah. I don't think that's the case here, though. I think he's gone. I think Blake's gone.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, it could be mutual. I think I saw what's his name? ESPN. Jordan Ronan said it could be a mutual thing. So I don't know. It's a different regime, as you said, but it was just so unexpected, very weird. So anyway, let's talk about the preseason. Only 3 games now. The Giants were this close to going undefeated, and I kind of wanted it because it's the Jets. I want to beat the Jets. So that sucked. It was a last-minute win by them. But, the guys that played very well for us, Davis Webb and, Alex Bachman, they're gone now, back on the practice squad. But still, like, those guys
I don't think Bachman's on the practice squad.
Really? They just
I think he's not. I'm pretty sure.
Wow.
But Webb is.
I was kind of hoping Bachman would get a shot because, we'll talk about Kenny Gallaudet later, him taking up a roster spot. Obviously, he has to be here due to the contract, but we'll talk about Kenny later. But yeah, did anyone impress you in the preseason? What were your preseason takeaways? The offense looks a lot more exciting than Jason Garrett. So what were your takeaways?
From a positive, again, I don't want to read too much into the positive or the negative of a preseason, and I do think there's going to be growing pains on both sides of the ball in the regular season. I just think that's common sense. New schemes on both sides of the ball. The offensive line, none of these guys have played with one another before. Jones and the receivers don't really have much of a rapport in this scheme, right? Because Tony didn't play in any of the preseason games. Gallaudet, I think, had 1 catch. Wandale Robinson was used sparingly. I don't think he was even used in the first preseason game, and then they used him a bit in game 2 and 3. So I definitely think there's going to be growing pains with this offensive defense. But if I'm being honest, and again, it's very hard to judge because he was going up against second string defenses, but I thought Jones looked good. I thought Daniel Jones looked good. I thought he looked decisive, which is a common knock on Daniel Jones. He doesn't get the ball out quick. He, stands too long in the actually looked pretty good. I'm not gonna go crazy about it. I'm not gonna overanalyze it. But, you could only look at what you saw and what he was going up against. And the interception, whatever, that was off the tight end's hands. He looked good to me. He looked good. But let's see how he looks come regular season. I'm going to give Jones a little bit of a wiggle room early on because of all the factors that I said with the line and everything else. I think I'm going to give them 3 weeks or so. And then I'll really start to judge this offense and what they look like with Dable. Not just Jones, everybody from within the offense. But yeah, if I'm taking a positive, I'll say that. The offensive line, but again, going up against second units in the first 2 games, I thought looked pretty good.
Yeah.
Especially factoring in all the injuries that they had. The run blocking specifically in the first game looked really good. The pass protection looked really good in the second game. And then the third game, you had all backups, and you didn't have Evan Neal, you didn't have Andrew Thomas, and you were going up against the first team defense. So I kind of expected them to look like the way they did, which was horrible. But yeah, I'll say the O-line looked pretty good. Wandale didn't see much. Like I said, all the weapons didn't see much. I'll say Barkley, for the little amount of time that we saw him, looks like he's got his explosiveness back. Yeah. I'll say that as well. On the defensive end, Aaron Robinson's going to be a problem. Aaron Robinson's going to be a problem. So I'm worried about him for sure. We didn't really get to see a lot of the first teamers. Leonard Williams didn't really play. Kayvon, of course, had the injury. He looked pretty good. I know he didn't have any sacks, but he looked like he was beating his man off the edge pretty regularly. Aziz, we saw a little bit. I'm excited for him this year. So we'll see. In terms of the schemes, I think what you saw in all the preseason games, you saw Bill Belichick complain about it after week 1. We're going to be aggressive. We blitzed 21 times in a preseason game week 1 against the New England Patriots, and you saw that throughout training camp. So I guess some fans may be excited about that. Some fans may be nervous due to the limitations in the secondary. And then in terms of the offense, again, it was kind of watered down, especially in the first game. There wasn't a lot of pre-snap motion. But the offense looks a lot more innovative than Jason Garrett's. And the one thing that really stood out to me, I think more so even in the second game, you had tons of guys running wide open over the middle, and you never saw that in Jason Garrett's offense. So there was definitely some pros to take out of it, a few cons as well. Obviously, injuries too. We had I'm sure we'll talk about that. We had a few injuries.
Yeah, I was pretty, I would say, encouraged for the most part with preseason, and we saw things that we didn't see with Jason Garrett. As you mentioned, the offense just looks better. And the good part is it's not even regular season yet, so they're probably not showing everything, and it already looks better than what we've seen the past 2 years, which is sad if you're Jason Garrett. But about Daniel Jones, we know how it is. Everyone overanalyzes every single step this guy takes, every throw this guy makes. I thought he looked good. I mean, even the interception, as you mentioned, Evan Ingram flashbacks. Hopefully Bellinger's not like that. I have still faith in him.
He shouldn't be. The guy didn't have a drop his last 2 years in college. Yeah.
Then you put on a Giants jersey and all of a sudden you got to drop shit. That's how it goes. But no, yeah, as you said, DJ looked very decisive. That was the first thing I noticed right away. Throwing quick screens and guys over the middle. Him and Gallaudet it's still not there. That's the sad part. I'm hoping that at some point they have that, because he had that one throw to David Sills, the back shoulder throw left sideline. I'm like that would be a perfect throw for Kenny Gallaudet. Just throw it to a different guy. And hopefully at some point this year, because I do think Gallaudet is going to get a shot. Like, I would be shocked if he's not starting week 1. I think Gallaudet will at least open the year as a starter. He'll get the snaps, but I don't know. My expectations are not too high. But you mentioned Barkley as well. I am very impressed. I am super high on him for fantasy football purposes. I mean, He honestly could have had a touchdown. The angle route he ran, it was the throw where Gallaudet dropped it. But he had Barkley on the angle. That could have been a touchdown. But yeah, he's receiving the ball, running routes, and Saquon does look explosive. I mean, once again, I don't expect the 91 receptions, whatever it was, back from 2018. This is not that type of offense with Eli Manning. But, Saquon can definitely, I think, flirt with 1,300 rushing yards and 600 receiving, like something like that. Like
I think he'd have a big season,
especially in a contract year.
Yeah, I've said that for a while now, and we'll see. And that's going to be a huge, if he does have a year like that, that's going to be a huge topic of conversation at the end of the year. What do you do with Saquon Barkley? But all the factors to me point to Saquon Barkley. And again, I'm not going to come on here and predict injuries. You can't. It's football. Anybody could get hurt. And I don't even know if I want to consider Saquon Barkley injury prone, because some of like last year's injury was a fluke thing. Yeah. Like he stepped on. I mean, come on. So like, I'm going to go into the year thinking he's going to remain healthy, or at least hope he's going to remain healthy. And to me, his biggest problem last year was his mental. I feel like he's recovered from that. You could see he just feels like Saquon of old this year. I don't know if we're going to see 2018 Saquon. I hope we do. But I think with this scheme, like you said, the fact it's a contract year, the fact he's now 2 years removed from the ACL, and you have to think Evan Neal's an upgrade over Nate Solder. Like, I think all those factors should help not just Barkley, but should also help Jones. I think Jones will look better this year. I'm going as far to say I think this will be Jones's best year as a pro. That doesn't mean I want him back, but I think it's going to be his best year as a pro.
Yeah, I don't see why not. I mean, looking at his rookie season, yes, the numbers overall were impressive, but we know a lot of those numbers were accumulated against the 4 games against bad defenses. But I do agree this will be Jones's best season overall. With Jones, it comes down to consistency and staying healthy and just, making some more big plays, which I hope this offense allows him to do. And the weapons have to be healthy. We know that. I have concerns about Tony, of course, who is on the sideline today, and Gallaudet missed half the season the year before.
Something came out today. I didn't get a chance to read it. I was going to make a video on it, and then the Martinez thing came out. I don't know if this is nonsense or not.
Uh-oh.
Shane came out today and said that there was an off-season procedure that Gallaudet had. But they didn't go into like specific details, but he had some kind of surgery. And I think he was kind of like hinting towards that's why he may have not looked as active as people would have liked in training camp this year. So, because he was trying to save it for the regular season.
I honestly hope that's true. That would make me feel a lot better.
That's the first thing I thought. I'm like, I pray this is true.
Yeah. Because, I mean, you've seen some of the practice clips, and it just looks like he just wasn't as engaged as some of the other guys. And I get he's got $72 million in his bank account and all that. But like you see like the Wan'Dale clip and then compare it to him. And it's like, I get he's bigger and all that. I get all that. But like, it just looked like Wan'Dale was way more engaged. And the whole blocking play from last game, that was overblown as well. That was like an RPO play. He had to seal him off. Like, that's not something I'm going to go.
I'll admit it, Mike. When I first saw it, I reacted like everybody else. and then when I got a chance to sit back and listen to the explanations, I'm like, all right. Yeah. Let me delete this tweet. I'm not trying to cause panic. I agree. I think that was overblown. And my mindset with Gallaudet this offseason, because I know he's going to be the punching bag this year. He's going to be the Evan Ingram of this team. $72 million. Didn't produce last year in terms of touchdowns. You don't like some of the things you see in the practice. But I'm going to be as fair as I can to every player on this roster. If I'm going to say I'm not going to overreact or underreact to Daniel Jones or everyone else in the preseason and training camp, as much as I hate to see what I think a lot of people perceive as lack of effort in practice, I am going to give him the year, not the whole year, but I'm going to give him a few weeks into the regular season before I go crazy about it. But do I have concerns about Kenny Gallaudet? Yeah. And it's not even just like the worry about him, whether or not he's 100% committed. I said this once we hired Kafka. I don't think he fits this scheme very well. I just don't. Like, you look at the wide receiver we drafted with Wan'Dale Robinson, Kadarius Toney. Like, those guys are shifty guys that you can move around in the offense. Not to say that there's not a role for him. I've kind of compared him to like Watkins when he was with the Chiefs. I could see a role like that for Gallaudet, like a 50-50. But I don't see him being like a featured guy in an offense like this. I think he actually fit the Garrett offense better.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. Yeah, I mean, you look at the guys the Chiefs would go after. I mean, like Tyreek Hill, Mecole Hardman, Jerick McKinnon. Those are like smaller, just speedster type guys. I mean, you have like DeMarcus Robinson, and you mentioned Sammy Watkins, but yeah, I think Kenny's going to have a chance. We know that. It just depends what he does with the opportunity. Like, he'll be there. He'll be the wide receiver 1, maybe 2. I don't know how they feel about Toney and all that. But yeah, he's going to be the X receiver. And I just hope he gets opportunities. And if Gallaudet sucks this year, that's going to suck for us because they literally cannot get out of this contract. People have said, just release the guy, just trade him. It's impossible. They can't do it. Maybe next year, they're still going to take a pretty big hit financially. I don't know the exact
You only
numbers.
say, I know. They say they have to eat 14.5 and they save 6.5 if they cut him.
That's rough. Yeah, I don't even want to do that. Maybe. I don't know. I don't want to say it yet. We'll see how it plays out.
If Gallaudet's even okay this year, I think you keep him just because, like, look at the wide receiver market right now. It's insane. Mm-hmm. So, like, if Gallaudet has, like, 850 yards and 6 or 7 touchdowns, you say to yourself, well, that's not much more than what he would cost if he was a free agent right now. Christian Kirk got $20 million.
Yeah, some of these, even like Valdez-Scantling got some big money. It's crazy. But I actually went back today and I watched our preview from last year. We had some good takes, by the way, but what you just said about Barkley was like spot on. You said this in last year's video, how it was going to be a mental thing for him, and it absolutely was. Yes, wow. It was like spot on. I mean, good by you. But yeah, people have said, I've never torn my ACL. I have no idea. But people that have been in that situation have said it takes about like a full 2 years to get back to where you were. And like Saquon tore his ACL, September 2020? Yeah. We're in September 2022. So I'm hoping now like he is just back. And, once again, we'll see how great of a year he has. It's going to be a very interesting conversation about should they bring him back for next year. I know where I stand. If it's a reasonable contract, like a Nick Chubb type contract with the Browns, he got like $12 million per year. Like, I can live with that. I just don't want to give the guy like an insane amount of money. I think you're the same way, but
my take on it is I don't even think about it unless first off he's got to stay completely healthy this year, and he's got to show at least shades of his rookie season. I don't need identical, but he's got to look like a big time difference maker in the offense. But the only way I shouldn't say the only way, but I think if Jones is not back, it significantly increases the probability that Barkley is, if he remains healthy, because then you could at least say to yourself, if you're Joe Schoen, this is a guy that could help my rookie quarterback grow. I'm not going to have to pay the quarterback a ton of money. So that gives me the freedom to give Barkley a 3-year, $40 million contract, something along those lines, 12, like you said, 12 and a half, $13 million a year that I could get out after 2 years, but it'll help him grow the first couple of years. So I do see, as much as some fans may not want to admit it because they hate Gettleman, obviously I understand that the pick was a bad pick, but he is still, when healthy, a guy that could help a football team a lot, especially a young quarterback. So I do see a avenue where he could be back with the Giants.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. And as you said, like a 3-year, $40 million deal is very, I think, palatable is the word. Like, I'm fine with that. So, we'll see what happens with him. I just hope he stays healthy. I do want to see like the 2018 Saquon, because although the Giants sucked that year, it was awesome to see like this guy break off these massive runs. It was great.
Because Odell got hurt that year. He was the whole team. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So hopefully we see that again. All right, so let's get into we'll do the ceiling and floor predictions, Chris. You're more of a positive guy. So let's start with the positive for you. What do you think is the absolute ceiling for the Giants this year? Dak Prescott somehow gets hurt again. Jalen Hurts is garbage. Giants stay healthy. What is the Giants record in that scenario?
Dude, when you say ceiling, anybody listening to this podcast, do not think I'm predicting this. Do not think that I expect this. This means like the Giants hit the lottery and everything that could go right goes right. Similar to the Eagles last year. Like, to me, I feel like the Eagles kind of hit the lottery last year. They had no key injuries. Like, they stayed almost completely healthy all year. They played the softest of schedules.
They beat the bad teams, yeah.
They beat all the bad teams. So if the Giants have a year like that, and everything breaks right, which never happens for the Giants. We have the most injuries in football since 2009. But if our offensive line stays completely healthy, our weapons stay completely healthy, Daniel Jones stays healthy, with our schedule, 10 wins. That's my absolute ceiling. I'm not expecting that, but that's my ceiling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll go one below you. I'll say 9, I think. Yeah, because I think like Sharp Football had the Giants as the easiest schedule this year. And like I haven't had a tweet before. Like I can see them starting 5-5, maybe 6-4.
In terms of I can see it.
Right. And then we go into that Thanksgiving game like a competitive team. And I would love that. That would be like such great vibes for that Thanksgiving. So I don't know. I mean, there, of course, as Giants fans playing at MetLife, all the injuries there, like we know in the back of our minds, something is going to go wrong. It's how I feel about the Giants, how I feel about the Brooklyn Nets, and kind of the Yankees once in a while. But that's how I am as a sports fan. Like something's going to go wrong. And that's what we're accustomed to as Giants fans, unfortunately. So yeah, you have 10, I have
something,
9.
Everything.
Yes. I mean, yeah.
Last year, everything went wrong.
Pretty much.
Yeah. But go ahead.
Like even like we were talking so highly about Joe Judge, even like it's crazy where we are now, but I'm happy they've moved off him. Thank God. I am excited for Dable. We'll talk about him later. All right, so let's talk about what is the floor, because we got that wrong last year. We were talking about like what is the worst case scenario for the Giants, and we thought their defense was going to be good enough to the point where like the worst Giants outcome was going to be like 6 or 7 wins, and they had 4. So we were off about that. For this year, what is your like basement? Everything goes wrong. Typical Giants season for you this year.
I might be wrong again.
Yeah.
I'm going to go 5 as the floor. I've got 10 as the ceiling, 5 as the floor. Maybe it'll be 4. But my reasoning for 5, one, I don't think they could possibly have as many injuries as they had last year. And they may. And if they do, we are the worst luck in the history of the NFL. But even if they do, we play at least before the year starts, we play a much easier schedule. And the most important thing in terms of analyzing my floor, Tyrod Taylor is much better than Mike Glennon. So I see Tyrod Taylor as a guy that could probably still beat a team like Jacksonville or Detroit or Seattle, where a guy like Mike Glennon couldn't beat my high school football team. So that's why I have the floor a little bit higher than last year. For all those factors, I'll say 5 is the floor, 10 is the ceiling. I'm going to meet somewhere in the middle around 7.
Yeah, I'm actually like the Tyrod point is on point. Like I was going to say the same exact thing. They can't, like, I don't want to say can't because, 5 and 4, what the hell's the difference? But I don't think they will be as bad as last year because of the insurance behind Daniel Jones. Last year, we were like, hey, Mike Glennon had a pretty good year with the Jaguars the year prior. He'll be a good backup. He's fine. Then he was like, oh, the worst freaking quarterback we've ever seen. So, but at least Tyrod, we know, like, Tyrod wasn't great in the preseason. He had some good moments, some pretty bad moments, near interceptions, but we know Tyrod for the most part is one of the most competent backups in football. So, if Daniel Jones misses time, which he has the past like 4 years going back to college, at least we know, okay, we're still going to be in the game. And not to take a shot at Daniel Jones, but the drop off from him to Tyrod Taylor is it's not like going from Mahomes to Chase Daniel or something like that. It's not the biggest drop off in the world. So yeah, I think for me to put a number on it, I will once again go 1 below you. I'll say 4 and 13, which feels dirty, but I'm always saying that because I could see a scenario where, like, let's say McKinney goes down, please. I don't want that to happen. But if he does, like, this secondary can be historically awful. And he's talking about an aggressive defensive coordinator on top of that. That's a recipe for disaster. I could see a world where
and you're 100% right on that. And it's every positional group on this roster. Like if I had I think if we stay completely healthy, we have at least a decent NFL football team. But we are so thin. If Adoree Jackson goes down, who the hell is our starting cornerbacks? If like you said, if McKinney goes down, I don't even know who the hell our middle linebackers are going to be now. Mm-hmm. If Leonard Williams goes down, if Kayvon Thibodeau misses significant time, if Kadarius Toney goes down, if Daniel Jones goes down, so it's just like if Saquon Barkley goes down, you drop to Matt Breida. So it's like we're very thin. So I could certainly understand why people would have a floor as low as yours. I'm only 1 game higher, so it's not like I'm like that much higher on it. But for me, the schedule and Tyrod Taylor, I'm going to give them a little more credit. I'll give them 5 as a floor.
Yeah, like I'm looking at the depth chart now. Like you look at a scenario where, let's say, Adoree Jackson goes down, your starting 4 in the secondary would be Justin Lane, who we just got, Aaron Robinson, McKinney, and Love. I don't feel good about that.
And maybe you transfer Love to the outside and play one of the Belton at safety, but you at least have options, but it's still not great.
I actually want to see that, by the way. I don't mind Julian Love at outside corner. I don't think he's been given a fair shot at that. And like he was doing that in college. He was good at it. And I feel like the Giants always effed around with him. They're like, oh, let's put him at slot corner. Oh, let's put him at safety. Like I just want to see this man play a full season at outside corner. He was named the captain. Good for Julian. Nice guy. But like I just want to see him play outside corner. Like what are they like? You know what I mean? Like what is there to lose?
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if. I mean, obviously they're going to give Aaron Robinson the first crack. Yes. But if he really struggles for like the first 4 or 5 weeks, I wouldn't be shocked if they move Robinson back to the slot and give Love a look on the outside and maybe put Belton or Jefferson, the other safety we just, but like at least there's some maneuverability if things are like really going bad with Robinson where they could tinker with the lineup. And it's at least nice to have that flexibility with Julian Love.
Yeah, as they should. Like, I don't, remember a couple of years ago, we had that jabroni, Ryan Lewis, the guy in the Macklemore album. Like, just out here playing cornerback. He was fine for a few weeks, but like, just guys off the street.
Isaac Yadam.
Yadam. Yeah, there you go. There's another one. Who else did we have that year? Now that I'm going down this road. It was just those two, right? For the most part.
It wasn't good. Whatever it wasn't good. It
was rough. Like Bradbury, he was great that year, and then they would just pick on the other guy, which is my concern this year. I think Adoree Jackson might have like an insane year because they just target the other guy the entire time, Like Adoree has to be healthy on his own. That's a problem in his own right. But like if Adoree plays every game this year, like he might have a great season because they just won't throw the damn ball to him.
Wink better be a magician. I'll just say that. Like he better be able to create pressure quick because I do think Robinson's going to struggle, but we'll see. I mean, I think it's going to be a good test for Wink this year because I think that's kind of been the book on Wink, the knock on Wink while he was with Baltimore, is that, when he has the pieces, he's great.
Yeah.
But Baltimore, maybe the best secondary in the NFL. And, for his first 3 years there as a DC, his fourth year, they had a ton of injuries, and that's why he lost his job. So I don't want to sound negative because I do like Wink, and I'm excited about the defense this year in terms of the scheme and what it could potentially be if we get a couple more playmakers in this defense in the coming years. But it at least gives me a little bit of Betcher vibes in the sense that like everybody was really excited when we brought Betcher because he was aggressive with Arizona and we didn't have the men in the secondary to back it up. So I think that's a major concern for a lot of Giants fans.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so let's get to the Daniel Jones conversation, right? What are your expectations for him? You can just give me like a stat line if you want or whatever. Just go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, I'm doing the stat line based off 17 games. If you ask me, is he going to stay healthy all year? I'm probably going to tell you no. History tells us that, right? But I'm just going to do it based off the fact that, he's playing 17 games. If Jones plays 17 games, I could see 27, 28 touchdowns. I'm not saying that like, I don't even know if I'm predicting that, but would I be shocked if he did that? No. I could see like, I think we're going to throw a lot too, by the way. So I could see over 4,000 yards, 27 touchdowns, 16 picks. I think he'll throw more picks because we're going to be more aggressive. But something like that. If he plays all 17 games, I could see a stat line like that. But for me, it doesn't even come down to stats for Jones. He has to put the team in a position not to be able to draft a quarterback for him to remain on next year. And people have asked me going into the year, what does he need to do? He's got to do what Carr did last year with the Raiders. Carr got the Raiders to the playoffs. They were limited. They had a ton of injuries, and he still was able to do it. I don't expect us to do that, but for him to keep his job, I think that's what he needs to do. Statistics aside, he needs to come up with big plays in the 2-minute drives, come up with a few game-winning drives this year, and find a way to get this team to 9 wins so he could secure that he's back with the New York Giants.
That's very well said. I pretty much agree with everything. I think winning is the number one thing for him. Like, it's tough to win with this team, but if he puts them in a position where they get 9 or 10 wins, you're going to be like, oh, well, that's amazing.
I'll give him a tag. I'll give him another year.
For this roster we had, like, that's not bad at all. So now if it's in spite of Jones somehow, we're like, I don't know how that would even happen.
Do you see that, though?
No.
Can you honestly see, like, the Giants winning 9 or 10 games with this roster if Daniel Jones isn't at least an average starting quarterback?
Well, yeah, you kind of took away. I was going to say, like, what if Tyrod came in and won 7 games? But
that's different. Yeah,
that's different.
Yeah.
No, yeah, it would have to be Daniel Jones having a big year. That's definitely true. So, yeah, I'm kind of with you with the stats. Like, I think somewhere around 4,100 passing yards and like 25 to 30 touchdowns in that area. And as you said, somewhere around like maybe 15 interceptions is fair to assume. And those numbers aren't like franchise quarterback numbers, but they're much better from what we've seen the past couple of years. I will take that. Like, I'll sign up for that right now. Like, I don't know how I feel about that when it happens, but I just think compared to what we've seen the past few years, like we'll take it.
And then the other thing, Mike, I don't mean to cut you off, but I'm just
Yeah.
thinking as you're talking, you factor in the teams we're going up against. Like, if he can't put up numbers against some of these teams, he's never going to put up numbers. Like, he's playing some of the worst defenses, worst teams in all of football. I think there's going to be areas in the schedule this year if he can stay healthy, which is the biggest if. And I do think he'll start off sluggish, like I said, with the offense the first 3 or 4 weeks. But I think he'll be able to pad his stats this year, and I think he'll have a pretty good statistical season.
Yeah, and they're going to be playing catch up, maybe, as I said, with the defense and the secondary maybe not being that good. There might be times where they're in the fourth quarter down a couple scores, and they'll be able to, pad the stats and all that stuff. So, I mean, maybe, I don't know. Hopefully they're playing in more close games than not. But yeah, I think most people will say that wins and losses is not a quarterback stat, and they're right to some degree. Yeah. But I do think I will say this: quarterbacks have the most influence on the outcome of the game, right? We can agree with that. And that's why we see like the great quarterbacks are consistently in the playoffs. Yes, they're on good teams, but like even Russ in Seattle didn't have the best rosters the past 5-6 years, and they would always get 9, 10, 11 wins. So my point is, though, if you're a quarterback playing at a very high level, you're going to get more wins.
You'll find a way to win some games.
You know what I mean?
But here's what I'm going to say, Mike, for anybody listening that says that wins aren't a quarterback stat, which I happen to agree with. You look at Jimmy Garoppolo; he's got like the 4th best winning percentage in the history of the NFL at the quarterback spot. Like, he's been surrounded with incredible rosters, right? Yeah. So I don't think it's a quarterback stat. I do agree with you that it's the most important position that influences wins the most. But for anybody that says that wins aren't a quarterback stat, which I agree with, tell me a quarterback in the history of the NFL that has gotten a contract extension off of 4 straight losing seasons, because I don't think you can. And that's what it comes down to this year, right? They didn't extend him on the 5th-year option. He needs to put the Giants in a spot not to draft a quarterback. In order to do that, he's got to win at least 8 games. Like, we can't be picking in the top 10. We can't. Otherwise, we're going quarterback hunting. That's just the reality of the situation.
Yeah, I was thinking Matthew Stafford maybe, but I think they even won 9 games.
I think he made the playoffs pretty early in his career.
Yeah, so can't even say that. Yeah. But yeah, you're probably right. I even did like a mini exercise like that too, of like guys that were entering year 4 and the team declined their 5th-year option. How many of those quarterbacks went on to be like franchise guys? And like out of like 23 guys since the year 2000, maybe like 2 or 3 of them, and I think Baker Mayfield was on that list, and obviously he got traded after that, so he doesn't
Smith,
even
maybe?
count.
I'm just guessing. Maybe
Alex Smith. I think I may have included Chad Pennington and maybe somebody else. Like, it was a very slim list.
And even Alex Smith, who was a very good quarterback once he got proper tutelage with Harbaugh and then Andy Reid. But even him, he got replaced twice. He got replaced by Colin Kaepernick, and then he got replaced, obviously, by Pat Mahomes. So even he couldn't stick around.
Yeah, there was a limit to how good he was. Like, I think they it's kind of like the Jimmy G situation. That's why the Niners are going with Trey Lance, just to go for the ceiling. So yeah, I mean, we'll see what Jones does this year. I mean, here's what I want. I want him to have either a really, really, really good year, or just tell us you're not the guy. I don't want to go into this maybe he's the guy for the 3rd straight year. Like, I don't want to have that happen. Just win 10 games and be great, or just give us a top 3 pick. Give us a quarterback.
That's what it comes down to. I agree with you. In an ideal world, if you say, Chris, here's a magic genie, and by no means am I saying that I want us to lose and tank. I'm not that type of fan. I don't want that. But if you said, Chris, give me your optimal scenarios for the New York Giants at the end of the year, one would be Daniel Jones becomes a top 10 quarterback, and we have faith and at least could give this guy a franchise tag and see if he could continue to grow off that. The other hand would be, like you said, completely lose, win 3 games, and be in the discussion, be able to let Joe Shane select his guy. So I agree. I think those are the 2 best possible outcomes before the year starts.
Yeah, I have not watched any quarterbacks yet. I'm not doing draft research, but I've heard it's a good class. So, maybe Joe Shane loves one of these guys. And I do think when Dable and Shane took this job just, 5-6 months ago, whatever it was, they envisioned getting their own quarterback one day. Now, if Daniel Jones can play at such a high level where he talks them out of it, that's another, conversation. But I do think they want their own guy. And we've, saw that tweet about Joe Shane is going to scout some Ohio State game coming up. And we'll see if he likes these guys. It's kind of like with we saw
Gettleman. Oh, you're going to hear plenty of that, Mike. You're going to hear I know when he went to the Ohio State Pro Day last year rather, everybody was talking about Stroud, and he wasn't even being drafted, but Shane was talking to him. There were pictures taken. And I mean, let's be real, Mike. I'm sure he's going to be looking at Stroud, but it's Notre Dame and Ohio State. There's like 30 potential first-round picks playing in that game. He's not just scouting the quarterback, but that's going to be the storyline. It's obvious, yes. Right? Because he's the most talked about quarterback.
Absolutely. Yeah, any responsible GM should go to that game. You definitely got that right. All right, so now we're back to part 2 because I forgot, Zoom has to make you pay for things now. Anyway, so we're going to talk about what's a successful season in your eyes, Chris, for the Giants in 2022.
Fans may not want to hear this. And I know fans hate the P word, patience, because I've been saying it way too long. And last year was the first year where I was like, no, it's no longer time to be patient. We need results. But it's about patience this year for me. It's year one of the rebuild. So a successful season for me isn't even based off of wins and losses. If we're talking about from the team perspective, which is what I assume this is based off of, not individuals. The team perspective for the Giants for me, what's a successful season? I want to see the offense as a whole grow throughout the year. And whether or not Daniel Jones is the quarterback next year doesn't even mean that much to me. It's about having confidence in the offense, in the scheme. By year's end, you say to yourself, okay, this is something that we could definitely build with. The dynamic of Kafka and Dable, the innovation of the offense, I could see things really starting to develop. And whether or not it hits that high ceiling because it's limited by the quarterback, or maybe it hits the high ceiling if Daniel Jones is that guy, at least you could say to yourself, okay, if we get an upgrade at that position with the offense in place, this team could really start to hit their strides. The other thing is the line in general, the play of Evan Neal growing as a rookie throughout the year. By no means do I think this offensive line is a finished product. I think we only have 2 long-term answers, if I'm being honest. Mm-hmm. I think Gawinski's a stopgap, and we have a lot of question marks outside of that. Maybe Azudu becomes a long-term answer. Maybe Nick Gates comes back, but those are all maybes. So we have a long way to go on the interior, but if we could get the bookend tackles situated, it'll go a long way. I think it helps out the interior part of your offensive line. So for me, the main focal point for me in terms of a successful season is really based almost solely on the offense. I'm not saying I don't want to see the defense progress. Of course I do. But I think the most important aspect of this team, like if you tell me at year's end the defense is the worst in the league and the offense is close to league average, I think I'd take that. Not that I'd be happy that we had the worst defense, but I think it's much more important this year to really start to feel, especially with Brian Dable being the head coach, he's more offensively minded. I think that's what we're most concerned with as Giants fans, is starting to get a modern-day NFL offense. That, to me, is the most important thing this year.
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much agree with everything once again. Like, I am way more concerned about the offense than defense. And we know it's an offensive league and you got to put up points to win. No shit. We know that. But especially nowadays, as compared to the past, like, the best teams in the league are putting up 25 plus points per game. Teams like Tampa average over 30 a game. Not saying we'll be that, obviously, but I just want to say, like, we have a good offensive scheme and we can trust Dable and Kafka. And that's another thing. I want to see Brian Dable. Is he a good head coach? Like, it's more than year one. We were fooled plenty of times with year one head coaches, and we thought we had the guy and Joe Judge, like we thought. But
we were all drinking the Kool-Aid, all of us.
Absolutely, yes. So I mean, there was a few that were like, I don't like his style.
We were hopeless. and anything that showed us some kind of hope, we gravitated
towards. Yeah, it's actually pretty sad. But yes, that's how it was. So hopefully Dable proves he's the guy as a head coach. And yeah, offensively, I just want to see a much better scheme than what we have seen the past couple of years. And I just want to be one of those teams, Chris, that, like, obviously the team that wins the Super Bowl, you're in the best spot. We know that. But there's other teams below the Super Bowl winner where you look at them and go, that team has a bright future. And I want teams to look at the New York Giants, whether it's other fans, analysts, and say, that team has a bright future. I want to be in the Giants situation. I envy what they have going on there because looking at last year, even like there's teams you look at and you're like, oh, they have a really bright future. Like I think even Jacksonville with the cap space they had and Trevor Lawrence and all that, like you can tell like if they do things the right way, there's a very bright future in place. The Giants, of course, didn't have that this year because they are just so buried by the last regime. It's going to take a year. It's a transition year. We've heard that phrase plenty of times. It literally is a transition.
It's just the facts.
It is, yeah. And, obviously you don't mean to be a downer. I'm just going to tell it how it is. It's going to be, not a year where wins and losses mean the most. I think there are things more important. And you said like the whole Daniel Jones thing, I'm not going to be hung up on that too much. If he becomes a top 10 quarterback, awesome. We have a lot of our problems solved and we can focus on building the rest of the team. And even if he's not, we can look forward to hopefully taking a stud quarterback in the draft next year. And hopefully we don't have to trade up for one. But yeah, it's just not about wins and losses. I hate to say it. It is fun to win, and I'm hoping that.
Oh, trust me, Mike and myself are hoping for 17-0.
That'd be great, right?
Like the most important thing on game day is wins and losses. But if you're asking me for like the totality of the season going into the year, a successful season for me is not a win and loss record. It's what we just talked about.
Yeah, I'd prefer to be in November and still care about winning and losing. I don't want to be like the last 3 or 4 years where it's like, I don't care if we win or lose.
At least you had the Yankees, Mike. Now I finally have the Mets in the playoffs this year. But
yeah,
at least you've had the Yankees the last 3 or 4 years to get you through October.
True.
But hopefully, like you said, the Giants at least get us through November this year. Hopefully.
Well, the Yankees, they inevitably disappoint all of us anyway. So I was going to talk to you about the Knicks actually at the end of this, Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah,
we'll get to that. We'll get to that. So, but yeah, it's not about wins and losses once again. And I just hope that at the end of this year, people are like, oh, the Giants, they got something going on over there. So it's going to, as I've said, I think the Giants, for them to be legitimate Super Bowl contenders, I can see a world where they are playoff contenders next year. I can also see Super Bowl contenders by 2024. And I know people don't want to hear that, but that's
a lot needs to happen. But I agree with you.
That's the timeline.
I'm going to give you my Chris optimistic. Chris is way too optimistic. I'm going to give it to you. And this is all predicated on things that need to happen. But I look at this Giants roster right now and their plan, and I do have hope, not for 2022. But I see a very innovative offensive mind with both Kafka and Dable. Who knows how long Kafka is going to be here, but you see a much more innovative offense. The thing I'm most excited about is Neal and Thomas. We have bookend tackles. That's something to build with. So if you could get the offensive line situated, which I see no reason by the end of next year why we shouldn't have at least a pretty good offensive line, and you have an innovative offensive play caller, if you could find the quarterback, which is a huge if. In the NFC, look around, Mike. Look at the quarterbacks in the NFC. They're either grandpas. All the good young quarterbacks are in the AFC. The best young quarterback is Kyler Murray in the NFC. So if you could find that guy in the draft, or if Jones becomes that guy with the pieces we have in place, I agree with you. By 2024, there's no reason to think that this team can't at least be a contender within the NFC conference. Of course, you need to hit on some picks on the defensive end also. Thibodeau needs to develop and so on and so forth. But the offense, like you said, is the most important thing. And with the scheme that we have in place, I do trust it. I do think it's going to be a good scheme. And I do think the line is going to be trending upwards, especially over the second half of this season. It is going to be a much more favorable situation for the new rookie quarterback if we move off of Jones to come into than Jones could have ever dreamt of, which to me is trending up.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I don't even think it's that optimistic to say 2024. I really don't. Like, I think it's kind of realistic. Like, because I trust Joe Schoen. I think most of us do. I think he had a very responsible offseason this offseason. He didn't come in here and try and spend big and get wins for next year. He understands the big picture. That's all I ever wanted with a GM, which is why me and the previous GM did not get off to the best start, because I could tell that guy was going all in to win in 2018 and I hated it. But at least Joe Schoen, like, he's not going to get every single pick correctly. I get that, but he understands the big picture. That's all I want, right?
Did you see him today? He looked like he wanted to, like he was depressed. Like, Joe Schoen is not sugarcoating anything. All right. Yep. He might as well tell you guys, we're going to struggle this year, big time. Like, he has literally come out and said, we're going to make the best out of the situation. That's what he said.
I'd rather have you give it to me straight. Like, I don't want to hear I don't know. Anyway.
But I like that because he is, And I think that's important for him to do because I think the fan base has to give this guy an opportunity. You can't expect him to come in here and just turn water into wine in 1 year. It's not going to happen. For all the complaining that we did about Dave Gettleman, rightfully so as a fan base, he's inheriting that. So it's why I tried to give Dave as much of an opportunity as I did, because we complained about Jerry Reese for 5 straight years. He inherited that. And
I was going to say, we can agree that this situation's worse than what Gettleman took over with, right?
Yeah. It's worse. They're both bad, but this is worse.
I agree.
For sure. This is worse. So it's going to take some time, but the beauty of the NFL, you could turn a team around so quick if you do it properly. Next year, I agree with you. Not next year. Unless Jones becomes that guy. But realistically speaking, I think if I put a gun to your head, Mike, you're probably leaning more towards we're going to be drafting a quarterback next year. Probably.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you that question, actually, because I'll go first with this one.
We'll get to it then. All right, we'll save that then.
All right. But I was going to ask, like, what's the percent chance? Actually, that's one of the later questions I have for you. But to add to that question, like, what's a successful season? You mentioned it. Seeing all the young guys, the recent high-end draft picks we've had really prove that they're really good players. Evan Neal and Kayvon Thibodeau, and McKinney builds in year 3. And
super excited about McKinney this year, man.
Oh yeah. I actually nailed that one last year. I said that McKinney was going to break out, and I had Ojulari getting like 7 sacks. So shout out to me. I did get some. I got some shit wrong for sure, but I definitely got those right.
I did not think he'd have as good of a year as he did. He had a really good rookie year.
Yeah, even like I went back and looked at McKinney's stats the other day, and I was like, wow, he really had a great year. I know it's more than stats, but still, he was awesome. So I wish he had a better safety next to him. Maybe he loves that guy. Maybe it's Dane Belton in the future, who I like, but we'll see. Hopefully,
the safety position specifically in this defense, I'm really excited for, because Wink is going to be. I think you're going to see a ton of 3 safety sets. Yeah. You might even see some 4 safety sets. Like, he is going to be really creative, and I'm really excited to see how he uses McKinney in this scheme. Like, we already know he's going to be the guy with the mic in his helmet, so he's going to be really active. I expect him to play all over the field. I'm really excited about McKinney this year.
He's going to have definitely some opportunities for interceptions once again, because if they're going to blitz the quarterback and put these quarterbacks in tough situations and throw the ball quicker than they want to, and McKinney reads where he's going, it's going to be another season.
The other silver lining too, Mike, is, and I guess I'm trying to be as optimistic as I can, look at our schedule this year, and obviously I think we could both agree our biggest weakness on the defensive end is in coverage. Outside of Aaron Rodgers and Dak Prescott, who's really throwing? Like, we're not going up against any like Kirk Cousins, but we're not going at like even Jalen Hurts is a run first quarterback. Lamar Jackson's a run first quarterback. So we're not going up against like gunslingers. So I'm like, maybe we could get by. Maybe we could get by with the schedule provided to us on the defensive end.
I'm looking at it now. I think you're right. I think Kirk Cousins does have a monster year this year. I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of their new coach. But
I think Cousins is really underrated.
We'll see about the playoffs.
I'm not saying he's great.
Yeah.
But, like, am I crazy, Mike, to think, and I'd have him slightly above Cousins, but not much. I put Dak in the same tier as Cousins.
Yeah, no, I think that's
People
reasonable.
Come at me when I say that, but it's honestly how I feel. I feel like
you know why? It's the jersey they wear. That's why.
Yeah, they're like the same quarterback. Let's be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I guess Dak's younger by like 5 years, whatever it is, but still, I mean, they're not that far off. You look at their stats and how much they've accomplished in the postseason. I don't think it's that far off. Maybe we're just Cowboy haters. I don't know, but I don't think it's ridiculous.
They have the same amount of playoff wins. Maybe Cousins even has one more.
Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea. But yeah,
I know Dak has one, and I know Cousins has at least one.
Cousins beat the Saints, yeah. So no, it's really not that crazy. No, that's a good take, I think. So, all right, let's get into the rapid fire questions. You can answer them as quickly as you want here. So I have 10 of them for you. So first one, who is the starting left guard for the Giants in week 1? Ben Bredesen and Izuda. God knows who else.
I think it's going to be, why am I forgetting his name right now off the top of my head? It's
Tyree Phillips they got today.
No, I think it's going to be, I got the roster right here. I think it's going to be Devery Hamilton.
Oh, yeah. He started that one game. He was good. Yeah.
If I had to make a pick right now, I don't love any of them. I don't think it'll be Izudu. I don't think they'll throw the rookie in day 1. Lemieux's hurt, so I don't even. Was he put on the injured list?
Yeah, he's 4 games out. Yeah,
4 games. Yeah, so he's obviously not going to be it.
That
I
sucks,
suppose.
by the way.
Yeah, it
Like
does.
he always gets hurt at the wrong times. I hate it.
Yeah. I suppose. Yeah, Bredeson's definitely got a shot, but I'm actually leaning Devery Hamilton week one.
No, it's not a bad pick. Yeah, I was gonna say Bredesen. I actually legitimately forgot about Hamilton, but yes, I could see that because he did play well in the preseason. It seems like this regime likes him, so I could see it. All right, my second question here is going to be. Oh, you kind of answered this, but I had Daniel Jones passing touchdowns this year. I think you said 28, 29, right?
I think I said 27.
27. Okay.
If
So
he plays
27.
17 games, if you're listening. So if he
Yeah,
plays
yeah.
10 and throws 18, well, that's similar to 27 over 17. So,
Right, right.
but if he plays 17 games, 27.
I think we're both going over here. Let me change the number actually, because I think this number is too easy. Let's put it at this. Saquon Barkley over under 1,300 rushing yards this year.
Ooh.
I had 12, but let's go 13 because I think we're both high on Saquon this year.
I'm going to go under.
Okay.
But I think his scrimmage yards are going to be approaching 2,000. I think he's going to have a lot of receiving yards. I think he's going to be used a lot in the pass catching game. Like you said, I don't expect 92 catches, but I think his catches will be for more yards.
Yeah.
I think so I could see him having 750, 800 receiving yards. Like if you told me at the end of the year Barkley's going to lead this team in receiving, I would say I could see that. So I'll go slightly under. I'll go like 1,150 to 1,200 rushing yards. But I could see, like I said, close to 800 receiving yards.
Yeah. When is the last time the Giants had a receiver go over like 800 yards? Like I feel like it's
got to be Beckham probably.
yeah, I mean like 2018 Beckham, like has it
How
been
many
that
yards did
bad?
Barkley have in his rookie year? It had to be close to that.
Uh
Yeah, because he had 2,000 scrimmage yards.
yeah, probably yeah, somewhere around 800. Yeah, but anyway, like it's bad. We have not had 1,000 yard receiver at least in a long time. I think since Beckham. Yeah,
I think
so
it's Beckham because Ingram never came close to that. Shepard never hit 1,000.
I
Yeah,
think
maybe
Golden
Tate might have got close.
Tate was close, but he got suspended those first 4 games. If he wasn't, I think he would have got it.
Right.
So,
Yeah. So I think it's Beckham.
yeah,
Beckham.
I guess technically Tate on a per game basis was there, but
Slayton
not
on
the
a
full
per
season.
game basis, maybe his rookie
Yeah,
year.
yeah.
You know.
Yeah, Slayton made the team, by the way. That was kind of interesting. I didn't know what to expect there, but he's back.
Yeah, fifth receiver. We have that. There we go. We have one of the best number 5 receivers in the NFL.
Yeah, as it's not bad. I will take that as a fifth receiver. That's not bad at all. Most safety snap. Actually, no, I've skipped one. Kenny Gallaudet receiving yards this year.
All right. Again, my projection is going to be based off if he stays completely healthy. 730.
I would go lower. I think I would go like.
You're going like around last year, like just over 500.
I was gonna say like 615 is what came to my mind.
Okay.
Somewhere
I'm a little bit more optimistic.
Somewhere between you and what he did last year.
I'll go very low 700.
Yeah.
710 to 730 in that ballpark.
For how much money he makes, better well get that.
More than that. For how much money?
That's true. Most safety snaps next to Xavier McKinney or aside from Xavier McKinney.
Julian Love.
Really?
But I do think Belton's going to get a good amount of snaps though.
That was going to be my pick because I think Love could play outside corner. I could see it happening. So
yeah, I definitely could see it.
Belton seems like he's recovering fine. Like he'll be good for week 1, week 2.
It's a good point you bring up, Mike, because especially, and hopefully this isn't the case. Hopefully they do start 5-5, like we said. There's certainly a chance that they can, but if they're like 3-7 and they have a daunting schedule coming up, I could see them switching over to Belton to start to see what he could do at the safety spot. Yeah. So maybe I am leaning Belton after I thought about it. I'll go Belton.
Okay. All right. Similar question. Most snaps at cornerback 2. So obviously aside from Adoree Jackson.
I'm gonna go Aaron Robinson.
Really?
I'm gonna go because I think they're gonna give him a long leash. I think they're gonna give him a long leash. I do think Flott will get some time there.
Outside?
Unless Aaron Robinson's terrific, but if realistically speaking, I do think there'll be some bumps in the road. And I could see Julian Love getting some snaps, but I'll go with Robinson.
Yeah. Do you think Flott plays outside corner this year, or just specifically slot?
I could see it. Why
not, right?
I know most people project him to be a slot guy. I could see it. I think it depends on the play of the guys in the secondary. Like if Darnay Holmes is playing really well, you're probably not taking him out of the slot. I could see it, but I think he projects more to be a slot early on, but I think he has the measurables actually to be an outside boundary corner.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now. I had no idea he was 6'1". Like I knew he was
Yeah.
lanky, but
And he's
6'1",
fast. I'll say that, man. In the
fast,
preseason games, his speed impressed me.
long arms. I mean,
His
right? Why
tackling,
not?
however, the third game was pathetic.
Did you see that one play? It was a run play. He completely whiffed on it might have been Brees Hall, who I know is very good, but like still, that was
And then
rough.
on the touchdown, he completely whiffed on the wide receiver.
Yeah.
Yeah, his tackling was bad in the last game.
Yeah, I was not expecting that when he came out anyway. But yeah, he is 175. That's like the downside. But yeah, he's
Yeah.
6'1". I mean, I would try him at outside. Why not? That's assuming Aaron Robinson is not having a good year. Um, at the end of the season, we will be feeling blank about Brian Dable. I guess this is one word.
Hopeful. Hopeful.
Hopeful. Okay.
Hopeful. I think Giants fans will be more reluctant to completely jump on the Dable train because of the experience with Joe Judge, but I think he will show enough growth in the offense specifically by year's end to be like, all right, we get him a little bit more help on that offensive side of the ball. We may have something here.
Yeah, yeah. I made a positive tweet about Dable like a month ago, and people were like, "Isn't that what y'all did with Joe Judge?" I'm like, "Come on, just let me let me be happy about our head coach for once." But I get what they're saying.
Like if you can't at least yeah, I understand that we've been beaten down like a bloody pulp, and there's times now where I'm scared to like show any sign of optimism because you get destroyed by the fan base. They're like, oh, there's Chris again being, but like at the end of the day, like, what are you going to just sit through life just being like overly pessimistic about everything and thinking nothing's ever going to get better? Like, no, give these guys a chance, see what they could do.
Yeah, that's my goal is to be more optimistic with this team. I'm gonna try this time around because it was hard in the last regime. I'm not gonna lie. All right, who could be in their last season with the Giants that not many people are talking about?
Ooh,
I thought that was a good one, so I'm glad glad I got it. Ooh,
I want to give you a good answer, so let me scan through the roster off the top of my head. Matter of fact, I have the roster right here, so let me go through all of it. It's so a surprise, like Daniel Jones wouldn't be a surprise, Barkley wouldn't be a surprise,
nope,
Gallaudet wouldn't be a surprise,
nope. Shepard, no.
Shepard wouldn't be a surprise.
How about Leonard Williams? Like, what's his contract situation?
That was the first name that popped in my head actually when you said it because they save about $18 million, I think, if they cut him next year.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's like 24. Like he's a big mark against the cap next year. Now, I could certainly see them restructuring Leonard Williams' contract at the end of the year if he plays well. And I do think he fits the scheme well. He's a pretty versatile defensive lineman. So by no means do I think he's definitely gone based off that. But if he does stay with the Giants, I think they'll extend him and kind of redistribute that money. But he is at least a candidate. I'll even throw Dory Jackson's name in the hat at least as a candidate. But the thing I'll say about Jackson, he was like the only player that the Giants backloaded. So to me, that kind of signified that Shane pointed him out and he was like, this is a guy that's probably going to be back with the team next year because he actually backloaded his salary before the year started, and he said he didn't want to do that, and that was the first player that he did it with. Yeah. So that kind of hinted towards me like, and again, you can't predict injuries and play throughout the year, but I think he's probably going to be a part of the 2023 roster, especially with how thin we are at the cornerback spot. So yeah, I'll go with Leonard Williams. If I had to pick one guy in terms of like an impact player, like I'm not going to give you Cam Brown. Like, yeah, I'll go with him. I'll go with Leonard Williams.
Yeah, the thing about, because I was thinking about like it's the Leonard Williams thing's interesting because I wonder, obviously with the Jets, got drafted by the Jets. He's always been around this area. I wonder how much he cares about winning because this guy, I don't think has ever been a part of a winning team, right? Like he got drafted by the Jets maybe in 2016. They're the Jets' good year. New York
the whole career and you've been drafted after our last Super Bowl, for the most part, you have not been part of a winning team.
Because I was thinking the Jets had a good year in 2015, right? That was the Ryan Fitzpatrick year.
10-6.
He was a rookie in 2016. I don't think he's been on a winning team yet. So maybe Leonard Williams says, F this. Send me to Tampa. Send me to
give me a shot to win
the Rams. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I maybe, but maybe he loves the area. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I think he's the not obvious answer, but yeah, looking at the list, I think this is probably the guy. Adoree Jackson, if he plays like majority of the games, like 12 plus games and plays well, I have no problem bringing him back next year. I don't see why not.
I think he will be.
Yeah.
I still think we're gonna have to draft a cornerback next year for sure,
Mm-hmm.
or sign one. We might sign one because we're gonna have some money.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. I think he'll be back at least for one more year.
Yeah. I may have asked you this, but because actually, no, I asked your ceiling and your floor prediction, but I think the Giants over under for wins is is 7, but I had it at 6.5. So Giants over under 6.5 wins this year.
It actually opened at 7.5 in Vegas, and then it dipped to 7. And that whenever I see something like that, Mike, because obviously my initial reaction when I saw that line was like, that's way too high. Because like the Giants have only won, I think 6 is their high since our last playoff season. And then you figure all the turnover, like why do they have us that high? That's the first thing that you ask, because Vegas is smarter than we are. They set the lines. They're supposed to be well informed. And the only thing I could come up with is they're definitely taking our schedule highly into consideration because we play a soft schedule. And 2, they have faith in Brian Dable. And the other thing I'll say is they seem to have faith in Daniel Jones. Like he's 3rd in Vegas in terms of comeback player of the year. What he's coming back from, I don't know.
I was going to say, what the hell is he coming back from?
I guess because of the injury.
Yeah,
but I don't know. But he's like 3rd in terms of like the 3rd most favored player, which I would say Barkley should be the guy from the Giants if there was going to be one. But they seem to be higher on the Giants than the general public. I have them at 7. So, and maybe I'm too optimistic, but listen, if I was being ultra safe, I'd say 6. But I got them at 7. Because Mike, I look at it like, I think we're going to start 2-2. Call me crazy if you're listening. I think the Bears game, we should absolutely win. I could obviously clearly see us losing the Carolina game, but I look at the Cowboys, I look at Tennessee, and I look at the Carolina game. I think we're going to find a way to win one of them. I don't think Dallas is like that good this year. They're better than us. But like with the injury to Tyron Smith and all, like would I be shocked if we upset either the Titans or Cowboys? And no. So I could see us winning 1 out of our first 3 and then beating the Bears. So I look at it like I think it's reasonable to think we could get out to a 2-2 start. Will we? I don't know because we're the Giants. And then after that, I think obviously we're going to lose to the Green Bay. We're going to lose to the Ravens. But then we have that 4-game window where I don't think it's crazy to think we could win 3. I'm not going to say we're going to win 4, but we could win 3. I mean, you're talking about Seattle. You're talking about Houston, arguably the 2 worst teams in football. And then you're talking about Detroit, who's some people seem to be higher on than others, but they're at least a winnable game.
Yeah.
And then
Jacksonville.
So I
Evan
think it's
Ingram.
reasonable to think we can win 3 of those. So that's 5 wins there in your first 10 games if they are able to do that. And then there's some divisional games. Maybe you split with Washington. That's 6. Maybe you find a way to split with either the Eagles or Cowboys. That's 7. So that's where I got us. I got us at 7.
Mm-hmm. No, it's not impossible. I mean, when I made the schedule reaction video when it came out, like I think this is like the most favorable schedule the Giants could have had. Like,
which is unfortunate, really, Mike. Because this is not the right year to have the favorable schedule.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Wouldn't you rather us be like 2 more years in the future and then have this schedule?
Yes, I would. Yeah, but but just like looking at it, because they are away, obviously week 1. They don't have a legitimate road game until week 7 at Jacksonville.
That's the other thing.
That gets crazy.
We play 3 straight home games early on, which I don't remember the last time the Giants had that, that's big. Like to have 3 straight home games, that's big.
I mean, technically 5, but one of them is London, right? So it doesn't count. But
right, because then we come home. Yeah. And then
they are listed as the home team in 5 straight games. So
no, London we're the road team.
Are we?
Yeah, which actually worked out in our favor because we didn't waste a home game.
I don't know. So ESPN might be wrong.
Technically, we only play 9 home games this year. We play 1 neutral field game and 7 road games.
Oh, look at that. Even better.
Yeah.
But from September 11th up until October 23rd, they don't have a legitimate road game. Like it breaks perfectly. So, and then like your harder games are in the second half of the year, but by that point they should be more acclimated to the coaching staff and the scheme, and that's when hopefully they
pull up an upset home against the Colts.
Yeah, they can get like a Colts or Vikings win. I don't know about the Vikings, but maybe a Colts game or something like that. I don't know. So, but schedule wise, things kind of broke perfectly this year. All right, so I'm going to end you with this one. I know it's not the best question, but the Giants starting quarterback in 2023 is
I'm gonna give you all right. I'm gonna give you the three options that they have, and then I'll give you my answer.
Right.
One is clearly Daniel Jones. Two is a free agent quarterback. And I'm not looking at the free agent, but the first name that pops in my head is Garoppolo.
No Tyrod?
Maybe. I could see them trying to upgrade a bit and get a guy like Garoppolo on a stopgap for a couple of years, similar like what Carolina did with Bridgewater, and obviously that didn't work out. But I think that's your other option is like a stopgap free agent if you're not in a spot to draft a quarterback that you like and you realize Jones is not going to be your guy. And then the other option is obviously the draft. In the end, if I got us at 7 wins and I said that I think they got to win 9 for Jones to keep his job, I think we'll be drafting a quarterback. I think we'll be in like that between 10 and 13, 14 area. Maybe you got to trade up to get him. And if you're asking me to pick out which quarterback, which is impossible to do right now because I don't know how these guys are going to perform, I think Stroud goes too early. I don't think we're going to be picking early enough. I'm just going to go based off how they're projected now because Stroud's like the consensus #1 pick. So I think he's too early. The guy that everybody's high on and a guy that I'm excited about this year.
The Florida guy?
Yep. A guy that I'm excited about this year in college football, and he's complete boomer bust. And my opinion on him might be completely different in a month. Like I might watch 4 Florida games and be like, yeah, no. But he could also be so good that he goes #1. So that's why like this is so hard to predict. But I look at how the Buffalo Bills evaluated their quarterback in the past. Not that I'm comparing him to Josh Allen because that's like, I mean, come on, like he's like you don't see Josh Allen's. He's like once out of every 20-year type quarterback in terms of raw physical talent. But I look at Anthony Richardson, I see 6'4", I see 240, I see big arm, I see mobility, and I see upside. And I see the New York Giants coaching staff saying to themselves, if he performs this year in Florida, saying we trust our coaching, we trust our scheme. We think if we could bring a player like that in with his potential, then in a year or two, he could become not Josh Allen, but something similar to that. So I'll go him. If I had to pick a quarterback right now, Mike, I'll go with Anthony Richardson.
Okay. Yeah, I've never watched this guy play, but those measurables definitely sounded interesting, and that's definitely the type of build Josh Allen was. So we've seen that regime do it once before in Buffalo. So, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all we got. Anything we missed that's like glaring, I think we got pretty much everything taken care of here, hopefully. So, yeah, I want to ask you, Donovan Mitchell went to the Cavs, right?
Yeah.
You're happy about that, I think.
Yeah, I don't want to say I'm happy about it because I wanted Donovan Mitchell because I'm super excited if we got Donovan Mitchell, but I never wanted to trade RJ Barrett. And and I understand obviously Donovan Mitchell is at this point is a better player than RJ Barrett, and he will probably end up being a better player than RJ Barrett. Like I think RJ Barrett could be at least a fringe all-star, and maybe he could be better than that. Maybe he could become Jimmy Butler. I'm not going to rule it out. But the way I look at the Knicks situation, Mike, right now is what does that get us? If we trade RJ Barrett, 3 unprotected first-round picks, Emmanuel Quickly, and another young player, which was the reported deal that came out from Sham after the fact. Yeah, we're a better team, but we're still like 6th or 7th in the East.
Yeah.
We probably are still not a second-round playoff team. And you just gave away our best young player, who is at least going to be, I would think, at least a top 30 or 40 player in the NBA when he hits his peak. At least. Like, that's at worst. And you gave away 3 unprotected first-round picks with another good young player quickly and some other young player that they didn't mention. So, like, I look at that deal, Mike, I'm like, it makes us a little bit better, but at the same time, like, what does it really accomplish? Like, if it didn't involve Barrett, I would have said, okay, I could see this. Because now you have Mitchell, you still have Barrett, you've got Brunson, who's a good point guard, and you're a piece away from actually being a team that could really compete from within the East. Not this year, you're probably not going to get it. Maybe you get it the following year, but with Barrett off the team and losing 3 unprotected first-round picks, because, Mike, in the East is a beast, man. Like, if we got Donovan Mitchell and lost RJ Barrett, there's no guarantee we are not – we could get the 11th seed if we have a few injuries. There's no guarantees. Yeah. Like, what if Randall really struggles and you don't know? So that pick might end up being a top 10 pick or something. And the other thing, Mike, is I look at, like, for everybody complaining and going crazy about this trade to me is at least equivalent, maybe even more so than what we gave up to get Carmelo Anthony. And when we got Carmelo Anthony, he was a top 5-6 player in the league. He was an MVP candidate. We gave up like 4 or 5 first-round picks, whatever it was. Timothy Mozgov, who was a whatever at the time. Wilson Chandler, who was a nice little role player. He was kind of like quickly. Danilo Gallinari, who was a little bit better than that, but nowhere near R.J. Barrett. This situation, you're giving up at least as much as that.
Was Raymond Felton there too, or no?
Yeah, Felton was in the trade. Yeah. But like, let's say the trades were even. Let's just say they were even. You're giving up the same to get Donovan Mitchell as you gave up to get Carmelo Anthony, who at the time was a top 5-6 player in the league, and that trade was a horrible trade. So it doesn't make sense to me. I was glad the Knicks didn't do it.
I still have nightmares about that Carmelo thing because the Nets, who I'm a fan of, they had a deal done for Carmelo, but Carmelo did not want to play for the Nets, which I don't blame him, but it is like whatever.
And that's what forced the Knicks' hand because they were worried the Nets were going to get him. So you guys kind of screwed us anyway.
That's true. Good for us. Yeah. Then we got Darren Williams. That worked out very well. Hopefully basketball is fun for us this year. I mean, at least my team's back together for at least for now. We'll see what that was. Awful offseason for the Nets drama wise, but we'll see.
What do you think about the Barrett thing, the Mitchell thing?
It took me an hour to realize he got traded. Like I just thought Sexton got traded to the Jazz, and I thought Mitchell was still there. I didn't know it was for Mitchell. I found out like an hour later. Yeah, I was a bit surprised it was Cleveland because if it's the Cavs, like they have a pretty nice young team for the most part, but I don't know if it's enough to compete with Boston, Milwaukee, healthy Brooklyn team, even Miami, Sixers. Like, I don't know if they're in that category yet. I mean, they're getting there. I guess I'll give them some credit for that. But I will say I like what Danny Ainge is doing with all the draft picks over there with the Jazz right now. It's insane. They're going to be a great team in 5-10 years, whenever.
Well, that's the other thing is if you're, if all the Knicks fans are going crazy about this, the last GM that you want to give away all your assets to is him because he charged 130% more than the average GM with some of the trades he's done. So I know it hurts right now if you're a Knicks fan watching like that we didn't get Mitchell, but for what we had to give up, I think we made the right decision. Like there'll be another opportunity. I think not necessarily this year, but keep the draft assets. Make a move where you could keep R.J. Barrett on your team. I think that's got to be the mission. Yeah, somebody always comes up. There's always going to be a superstar that's disgruntled, and it might be someone better than Mitchell. So, yeah, I mean, we'll see. And the other thing, Mike, is and I think we need to trade Randall. I said this today on Twitter because you need the younger players to develop. You need Obi Toppin to get minutes. Like Obi Toppin sitting on the bench, and I don't even know if Obi Toppin is going to be a part of the future of this team, but you don't want to hurt his trade value. If he starts to get minutes, suddenly Obi Toppin might be a really valuable piece in a trade. Yeah. So, like, they need to develop their younger players. Grimes, Toppin, quickly. Those guys need to get more minutes. And I know that's not Thibodeau's MO, but they got to do that this year, especially now that they didn't get Mitchell. They got to realize they're not competing for a championship. They got to develop these younger players. Yeah, as you said, like, if it was a reasonable asking price for Mitchell, I would say go for it. But it's just that's not it. Way too much. So I agree with what the Knicks did. I mean, you sit tight. You hopefully are building a good future over there, and maybe a better star comes up in the future. So I wish you guys the best. We gotta get. I think SGA is the guy they're talking about now that is going to be the next. Oh, really? Might be available. Like not. I think next year is the next guy they think could be available. My brother is obsessed with him. He always latches on to the random players. Like he's obsessed with him. So that'd be funny. But anyway, all right. So that's gonna close it out here. Had a good time with you, Chris. It's been a while once again, and hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I think this is a longer video. This is in 2 separate parts. I'm not sure how long this is. It might be like an hour plus. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this Giants season preview. As me and Chris said, we're going to try and do our weekly shows and react to the games. I don't know, it might be a Tuesday, a Wednesday, whenever the hell it is. Yeah, we'll figure it out, man. Maybe we'll do the same thing we did last year. We'll go live. I don't know, whatever you want to do. You want to do a pre-record, we'll do a pre-record, whatever you're more comfortable. We'll let the people decide on that one. How about that? Put it in the comments below. There you go. If you listen this long. Because if you listen this long, that means you are a diehard Mike 29 subscriber. Put it in the comments below. Let us know what you want. Do you want it to be a live show or do you prefer the pre-recorded rendition? But Mike, man, thank you so much for having me on. Had a lot of fun. And yeah, man, I hope we're both wrong. The Giants go 17-0 and Daniel Jones is the next, Dan Marino. We'll see. Dan Marino, Peyton Manning. He got some Peyton Manning comparisons, right? I think from whatever. From one person. Ever. One person. Yeah. One of those older NFL analysts. But anyway, all right. So thank you guys for joining, and I'll talk to you guys next time.